Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Let's talk about success. This is the two things you really need to focus on through your process with VA benefits. Now, it's going to be specific to filing claims. If you already know and you already have it dialed in, cool. You don't really need this, but it does help our brothers and sisters if you do watch it. Just throwing out that part out there. Hit the thumbs up at least for this information. Every once in a while, it's important that we do these because there's thousands of new subscribers every single month and tens of thousands of veterans that are getting out of the military, new veterans, right, who might stumble upon this and be educated. Now, what I'm going to talk about here specifically is the CNP exam and making sure that you are successful in it. There's two things you really need to focus on through this process, and it's important that you front load a lot of this, and a lot of people don't. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really, really appreciate it. Every thumbs up and every minute watched helps to push this into the hands of those that need it, and there's a lot of us out there. Remember that only about 30% of veterans actually are service connected with the VA. There's a lot more out there that are changing their minds every single day on filing a claim. If you want to support the channel in other ways, consider being a member. I really appreciate all you members. I do my best to get back to you in the comments. Sometimes I get a little backed up, and I apologize, doing the best I can for you guys. All right, so let's jump into this. Success. I've been saying this for a while now, and I'm going to say it again here. Treat your VA disability compensation claim like $1 million or even a multi-million-dollar deal, because it is. You really need to look at it that way and think about it that way and invest the time necessary to ensure that you get it right. You want to have success. Now, even though I'm going to be talking about the CNP exam, the compensation and pension exam, and how to pass that exam and make sure that you have a successful outcome, you really need to really back way up from the CNP exam to ensure that you are successful. Now, this isn't going to be a how to file a claim video, but I am going to do a quick brush stroke here for you. Number one, the first thing that you should do if you were to be thinking about it today, you need to file an intent to file. That buys you 12 months of time to get your stuff together, right? Get all of your evidence together, all your documentation, order your files if you don't have them, your service treatment records and so forth, thumb through them and so forth. So get all that stuff together so you can actually file a claim. Now you're going to file your claim. That's great. But not yet. You're not going to file it yet. Why? Because you missed out on a bunch of things you were supposed to do. You thought, I just need to get, my service treatment records. It says X. I got diagnosed with whatever, migraines during service and a lumbar issue. And, I have my doctor's record, that I went to the doctor for that, 3 years ago. I'm going to file that. Cool, that's cool, but really that you're not treating this like $1 million deal at that point. This is what you need to do. Whatever your conditions are, whatever they are, you have 7 conditions, you have 2 conditions, you have 1 condition, whatever you're filing for, you need to take the time that you have with that intent to file, okay, and really hone in. Write down each one of these conditions that you're going to be filing for, understanding that the first thing you need to make sure that you're dotting the I on is service connection. What do you need for service connection? You need to have your time in service. Okay, that is your DD-214 that gives you from here to here, entry date, exit date. By the way, I'm leaving presumptives out of this. Presumptives are a whole different can, so this is not presumptives. You need to have your time in service, and that is number one. It gives you your window of opportunity, if you will. Next is you need to have that diagnosed condition, right? You can't just say, I have migraines. You need to prove you have migraines. Get a diagnosis. And for some cases, if you have a prescription for something, could be migraines, could be anything. In some cases, depending on the situation, being prescribed medication or being prescribed something could potentially warrant a higher rating. So that's important to get that prescription filled and have that documentation as well. So the diagnosed condition is number 2. Number 3 is what they call the nexus, the link between your diagnosed condition and that window of opportunity time frame of service. Now, what they're saying here is not solely prove to me that the military caused this, but rather prove to me that your condition manifested during your time in service or is a result of your time in service in some, which way fashion, right? So it's an important distinction because I don't know why I got migraines when I was in the Marine Corps. There's nothing specific I can say the Marine Corps caused my migraines. But my migraines did start during my time in service, right? So for somebody who has the mindset of, I need to prove that the military caused it, you might self-segregate out. Well, I can't prove the military caused my migraines, so then I just move on. But the other person goes, well, my migraines manifested during my time in service. I'm going to start building all my evidence for that, right? To prove that I have the nexus. Now, that could be things like buddy statements, which is a whole other, again, can of worms, and a whole other video, really. Your nexus letter, your buddy statements, all that type of stuff. So now you've gathered all of that. And that's great. So you've gotten kind of the nexus piece all kind of put together. You might need to get a nexus letter from your doctor, and that's fine. Have that conversation with your doctor. Explain to them that, you did whatever. You were a fueler and you were sniffing jet fuel, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 years. And, that contributed to X. And your AFSC or your MOS would point to the fact that you were a fueler, and that all makes sense, and that could be part of the rationale. So get a nexus letter if you need to double down, or if you need to somehow in any way prove that your condition stemmed from your time in service, either manifested during your time in service or is a result of your time in service. So you really need to focus on, one, making sure that you get that service connection, that story, right? Especially if you don't have something very definitive. Now, for folks that have something definitive, I got diagnosed with X during service, or I injured myself and that was documented during service. That's great because now you have real tangible evidence placing that injury, sickness, illness, whatever, squarely in your time in service. Now, that's the first thing. Most people talk about that, and most people understand that your goal is to get service connected. But what a lot of people leave on the table is before they know it, they've messed up, right? It's already too late. What they leave on the table is the information needed for the appropriate rating. Okay, you should be getting this evidence together before you even file your claim. Take an extra month. Take an extra 2 months. Instead of filing your claim 3 months after your intent to file it 5 months later. Take the time to cross the T's and dot the I's. Pull up the rating schedule for every single one of your conditions, right? You've already made sure that all of your conditions have all the requirements for service connection. Great. Now take all of those conditions and pull up the rating schedule for each one of those. Have a good look at it, understand it. If it's medical jargon, terminology, they use fancy words for things. So Google search that word, translate it to human speak, and then you'll know what they're talking about. In some cases, like things like hiatal hernia or migraines, you'll be able to read it and go, yes, that's me. I meet the criteria for that rating. You're the patient. You can understand. On other things, you might need to have a conversation with your doctor. Take the information with you to your doctor and say, hey, doc, I wanted to talk about my condition of X, and, I really want to see kind of where I fall on this scale. Can you read these and tell me kind of where I fall? And now you know exactly what you should be rated for each one of your conditions. The key is to have that information put into your medical records. If you are getting a nexus letter, you can have them incorporate that verbiage in your nexus letter, right? Veteran so-and-so, blah, 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 condition X, at least likely is not, this is the rationale, it's definitely, blah, 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 whatever. And, oh, by the way, these are the signs and symptoms. And that warrants to the VA a certain percentage, right? So you have that control. Take that time to read the schedule of ratings for your specific condition. You can find it on the ECFR, Code of Federal Regulations. Google search your condition, VA rating schedule, show up on VA attorney sites, but you will find it and you can read it and know where you fall. Get that information from your brain into your medical records, right? That's the goal. Now here's the great part. You have now, through this process, put all the information into your evidence that the VA needs to give you a successful service connection with a successful rating, the appropriate rating. Those two things are huge. So you've given all that evidence, filed your claim. Now your CMP exam comes up. You've already are so prepped because you have done all this footwork up front. You feel really good about your service connection. You understand why you're service connected, and you understand the severity of your condition and where it should be rated. There's no worry about bringing in notes. Take them. There's nothing that bars you from taking notes to the CMP exam. Print it out, write it down, whatever it is, the verbiage from the schedule of ratings regarding your condition at the level that you rate for the percentage that would be appropriate. Write that down. Take it with you. If you feel weird about it, when you get there and you meet the CMP examiner, let them know, hey, they're going to have, niceties at the beginning. Hey, how you doing? Have a seat. How's your day going? Good. Glad you made it. Okay, great. Okay, after all that, hey, I just wanted to let you know I wrote down some notes, or I printed out some notes, so that way I just make sure that I get everything mentioned that I need to make sure that I talk about. I hope that's okay. Of course they're going to say, oh yeah, that's fine. They don't care. You're a number. You're the next one in line. They got one coming after you. So they don't mind. In fact, they probably appreciate it, so you're not sitting there going, I don't know, let me think, right? You're prepared. Let me give you a quick example of not being prepared, right? All of a sudden, you don't have all of your information documented in your evidence and supplied in your claim, right? You did just the bare minimums and you filed it. Now, you get to the CMP exam and they're asking you, so when did you first start noticing your whatever? Well, you're probably not going to say, well, in the Army or in the Marine Corps. You're probably going to say 1987, right? Or 15 years ago or 30 years ago. If you're a rounder, right, and you just round everything up, what happens if you round too far? Let's say you joined the military 29 years ago, but you've been telling everybody, oh, I joined about 30 years ago. So now you're so used to saying 30 years, you say 30 years in the CMP exam, they annotate that, and then the VA looks at that and goes, oh, well, your migraines were before your time in service. You're the key witness. You're the one that's experiencing this, and you just said that it was before you joined the military. So be aware of that. Or if you're the other way around and time has flown past and it feels like it was 20 years ago, but really it was 25 years ago, and you say 20 years ago, they could be, well, oh, that was after your time in service. So you need to be very careful with what you say and make sure that what you say lines up with all of the requirements needed for your service connection, right? And all the evidence that you have. So with that, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.